The vast hall of the Galactic Council was as cold and gloomy as ever. Delegates representing millions of star systems had gathered, each prepared to defend their planet's interests against one another. As usual, the humans sat quietly in the back rows. They were seen as a weak and insignificant species, rarely spoken of, especially when compared to the great galactic powers. Their leader, Owen Ralston, hardly ever spoke during council meetings, often remaining a mere observer. But this time, things were about to change. The council's agenda centered around the decision to exploit a small planet called Turok. The planet was rich in minerals, and many of the major powers were eager to profit from its resources. The Crank and Var species had already begun preparing to divide the planet's wealth. But there was one problem. A modest civilization inhabited Turok, and they opposed this exploitation. When asked for humanity's stance, Owen Ralston stood up and unexpectedly objected. "Humanity strongly opposes the exploitation of this planet," Owen said, his voice firm and resolute. The other delegates paused for a moment, then began to laugh. They had never taken humans seriously, viewing them as a small, weak race. Zadrak, the Crank representative and one of the council's heavyweights, gave Owen a mocking look. "Owen, this is a matter for the major powers. Humans aren't strong enough to meddle in such affairs," Zadrak said, shrugging his broad shoulders. Owen sat back down, but inside, a storm was brewing. For centuries, humanity had been belittled in this way. But this time, they had a different plan. Behind the scenes, they had been conducting secret diplomatic talks and forging strategic alliances. They may have stayed quiet, but this silence was merely the calm before the storm. Silence filled the vast hall of the council. As the vote on the fate of the planet Turok approached, everyone assumed that the major powers would dominate the decision. It was well known that secret deals had been made between the Vars and the Cranks to divide the planet's resources. Other powers had quietly supported this alliance as well. The humans, as usual, remained in the background, seemingly passive, but silently working on a much bigger plan. Owen Ralston and his team had been working in the shadows for a long time. Their goal wasn't just to protect Turok. Humanity had found a rare opportunity to make its mark on the Galactic Council. Their silence had been part of a strategy, knowing that the great powers constantly underestimated them. But this silence was not a sign of weakness. It was a carefully crafted, patiently woven plan. Owen's team included a variety of experts. Anaya Trent, a diplomatic genius, was a master at winning over allies. Humanity's ability to think strategically differed greatly from the emotional and ambitious natures of other galactic species. For months, Trent had been holding secret meetings with several small planets near Turok. These smaller planets were not rich in resources, but they held key votes in the Council. Humanity had carefully chosen each small planet that would support their cause. The first alliance was made with Brachy, a small trading planet. On the surface, Brachy appeared neutral, but they were concerned about the Vars' expansionist policies. Trent held days of secret negotiations with Brachy's representative, Murley. Commercial agreements were offered that addressed the needs of Brachy's people. In return, Murley was asked to stand with the humans in the vote on Turok. Already tired of the Vars' oppressive policies, Murley was persuaded by humanity's promise of fair governance and freedom. Another critical alliance was forged with the Glonars, a technologically advanced but militarily weak species. The Glonars were constantly under threat from the Vars and Cranks, and this made them uneasy. Jonas Raylon, Owen's chief strategist, made direct contact with Clemmer, the leader of the Glonars. Raylan's offer of technology and information sharing won over the Glonars. They agreed to support humanity in the vote on Turok, understanding that this alliance wasn't just for Turok, but for their own future as well. The biggest surprise was the alliance formed with the Zilkarans, one of the Council's oldest and most powerful members, though they had fallen from prominence in recent years. The Zilkarans had once been a feared force in the galaxy, but they had lost their political power and lived in isolation. Humanity understood the deep honor and tradition in Zilkari culture. Owen Ralston personally met face-to-face with Yotra, the leader of the Zilkarans. Owen emphasized that humanity's silence was never about aligning with the great powers, but about doing what was right for justice and freedom. This resonated deeply with the Zilkarans, who saw this as an opportunity to restore their lost honor. Yotra pledged to vote in favor of humanity. In addition to these key alliances, humanity made diplomatic contact with several other smaller factions in the Galactic Council. Many were opposed to exploitation, but were afraid to voice their opinions. Quietly and methodically, humans held discussions in the hidden corridors of the Council. These talks eventually snowballed into a larger movement of support. When the day of the vote arrived, Owen Ralston was ready to declare humanity's victory. The species that everyone viewed as weak was now poised to shift the balance of power within the Galactic Council. The Vars and Cranks were confident that the vote was just a formality in their favor. Zadrak, the arrogant Crank representative, sat smugly in the center of the hall, watching the others with amusement. But as the vote began, things started to change. First, Brackie's representative, Murley, voted in favor of humanity. Then, the Glonars and Zilkarans announced their votes. The hall quickly filled with surprise. The major powers were caught off guard by this unexpected turn of events. With each passing moment, more and more smaller planets cast their votes in favor of humanity, declaring their support. A faint smile appeared on Owen's face. Humanity had once again proven that the greatest power wasn't in weapons or brute force. Diplomacy and intelligence always prevailed. When the results were finally revealed, the shock on the faces of the Vars and Cranks was unmistakable. The vote had gone in favor of humanity and its allies. The exploitation of Turek had been blocked. Zadrak's face contorted with anger as he glared at Owen Ralston. "How did you do this?" Zadrak snarled through clenched teeth. Owen remained calm and composed, answering coolly, "Humans may be quiet, but that doesn't mean we aren't making plans." As he walked out of the council chamber, he did so under the astonished gazes of the other major powers. With this vote, humanity hadn't just saved a planet, they had made their presence felt in the Galactic Council. Owen Ralston and his team knew that this victory was just the beginning. No one would ever underestimate them again. A new, quiet force was rising in the galaxy. Humanity. After the vote, a deep silence filled the council chamber. No one had expected such an outcome. Humans, once merely observers, had now become a significant diplomatic force within the council. As Owen Ralston left the chamber, he overheard murmurs behind him. "We should have taken them seriously," someone said. "Humans are far more dangerous than they appear," another added. This victory was a turning point for humanity. They had secured it by quietly forming alliances, but this was only the beginning. Owen gazed up at the stars and made a vow. Humanity might remain silent in this galaxy, but when necessary, they would show their strength and fight for justice. No one in the Galactic Council would ever underestimate them again. The galaxy stood on the brink of great change, and humans would play a leading role in that transformation. I hope you had a good time. If you liked my story, do not forget to comment and subscribe to my channel. Goodbye. See you in the next story.